Hi there! If you are tuning into this podcast, it means one of two things. Either you have no clue about managing your finances or you want to take them to the next level. Either way, we've got you covered. Financially Ever After is for the modern day Indian professional who is ready to take control of their financial journey. So let's start building your financial future one episode at a time. Welcome to Financially Ever After. Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to today's session. Really excited to talk about a topic that is the most requested topic. Whenever we do sessions, whenever we plan anything, people always talk to us about FIRE. It is one of those trendy topics that never go out of style. So very excited about talking to Akhila and Ankit about this topic today. I just want to introduce Akhila first because today she is going to be the moderator of the conversation. So hi Akhila, welcome and good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much.
So Akhila works for a fintech company. She is in her 20s and so she's also a part of our WhatsApp community. And when I spoke to her initially, I was just amazed by the level of maturity that she had, the kind of thought process. It's really hard to find in a 20-year-old, this level of understanding of the financial landscape. So I knew that I immediately had to bring her on the show to talk about her experience. And then, we decided, okay, let's talk about FIRE in our 20s because it is a thing that, a lot of people talk about. So, Akhila, if you want to add anything else to your introduction, I know that you used to be a lawyer before and then you kind of ventured into this. So, anything that you want to share and, if you can also talk about why you are so interested in this topic of FIRE.
Sure, yeah. So adding on to what Meena said, right? I've sort of been reading about finances and just generally everything from how to manage your taxes, how you should be investing from a fairly young age, so probably right after high school. And by doing that, I sort of realized that there's a lot more than, just say mutual funds and anything more than just the basic blocks of what puts together someone's personal finance journey. So that was the way I got started, and with FIRE especially. So when I used to learn a lot about this, especially when I was younger, got to see FIRE a lot from the US context. So especially on these forums like Reddit, FIRE is always being discussed by people who are like engineers in the US, people who are making really high salaries, or it's your typical sort of celebrities, influencers who talk about it. So that's how I sort of got interested. And although I'm not actively sort of thinking about it at the moment, I have a lot of friends, especially right now, who are looking at FIRE as something that they want to do and are actively trying to figure out strategies on how to shape their lives as of today to get to that in the say next 10 years. So that's really about it.
Right. Thanks so much, Akhila, for that introduction. So I think all of you know us, but just, once again, because I have to introduce myself, I'm Metha and I'm one of the founders of WealthUp. And along with Ankit, we bring to you sessions and services that help you make smarter financial decisions. Ankit, if you want to just quickly talk about, your introduction and then we can get started into the topic.
So, hi everyone, this is Ankit. I'm a founder at WealthUp. And prior to this, I'm an engineer by education and I was working as an investment banker before starting WealthUp.
Awesome. So Akhila, now actually just over to you and, to take the conversation forward. This is more going to be a conversation between you and Ankit. So go ahead.
Sure. So maybe I'll just start off with introducing FIRE. So I'm guessing although this is a really popular topic, just to sort of give a brief intro on what it is. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. So the whole idea is a movement especially started in the West, where it started off because people were tired with, the monotony of their daily jobs, having to stick to a fixed routine, 9-to-5 jobs. And the idea is that if you can achieve financial independence, then you can retire early. Typically, that would be, say, in like your 30s or your 40s. Now, over time, that's also broken down into, say, just FI. So a lot of people talk about just achieving financial independence and then choosing whether they want to retire or not. But this gives them that sort of safety net to do whatever you want to do and not just stick to, say, the job that you started off with. So that's with the introduction of what FIRE is. So I think now be a good time to go into what Ankit's background is. So Ankit, maybe if you could tell us what's your educational background and your job, how did you start off over there?
Sure, Akhila. Thanks for actually introducing FIRE more from the perspective of breaking it down. Before I introduce, I really like that we're talking about the financial independence is what you achieve, and then you decide whether you want to retire or not. It's your decision. It's very nicely put. Now, in terms of my background, as I mentioned, I did my engineering first, and I got interested more in finance. So I started, looking for a job in finance, and I got the one with investment banking with Swiss Bank. But financially speaking, my background is I come from a humble background, and growing up, we didn't have much money to invest. But I understood the importance of saving, and that is what initially I started focusing on. I wasn't aware of FIRE even after I started working. This is 2009. When I got my first job, when I completed my engineering. So that is where savings is where I started with. So this is what my background is.
And you said you didn't really think about financial independence or wanting to not, continue doing your job. So when you say you started off with thinking about saving, how did you sort of structure that? Because you're one of the people who achieved that financial independence while working a salaried job.
Right. So, Akhila, as I said, I didn't know about, investments. I had no background in that. And so growing up also, in the family, I have seen that, my mom particularly was very focused on whatever income we had, she's still trying to save. That is, how I saw and I learned. And, the saving is something that I was also doing in my college. Even though, sort of the monthly allowance kind of thing that I was getting was lesser than most of my colleagues, I was still focused, okay, I have to save money. Financial independence is the FIRE movement or term is something that I was made aware of. I came across it much later. So since I didn't even know about it, I was like, saving is first thing that you start with. And so when I started working few months after the job, after a few months of salary, I was like, I don't know what to do with, that much money. It was like not even a lot of money, but back then it was a huge amount of money for me, like more than 1.5 lakh that was in my account. And I didn't know what to do. So I was like, okay, the person that I can ask is probably my manager. And he was a very nice guy, very smart guy. So I asked him, I sort of cornered him in around a water cooler. And then I asked him, just wanted to know, how is it that you manage your money? What do you do with your money? Whatever savings you have. And he said, hey, actually my wife is a wealth manager, so I just give it to her. So I don't do anything, and he just takes care of it. I was like, okay, that didn't solve my problem. So then I started, experimenting with reading things and trying to make small little investments. And I, again, like most of us, just trying to get help from just about anywhere, searching it online, asking, just friends who are investing. Influencers didn't really exist back then, at least in this context, So a lot of struggles there, a lot of mistakes that I made. And later, I found about FIRE much later. So unlike you, like you mentioned, you got to know about FIRE relatively early. I found out about it much later. So, and then once I found out about it, that is when I started working and structuring, and more importantly, structuring my investments and whatever I had. How is it that I can align to it? So when you started working, you knew about FIRE probably before you started working, or you were aware of the concept. So how did you approach it?
So yeah, I think you're breaking a bit, but got most of what you were saying. So one thing I wanted to sort of double check on, I think, which is such a good building block, is just saving, right? A lot of people put a lot of take a lot of pleasure or put a lot of worry on, how should I structure all of my savings? But really, the first step is to start saving and make sure that you build a habit out of that, so that you have the corpus, I feel, to, go around and then figure out how you want to invest it. So it's a great, first step to get started. Now, sort of to talk about what you asked me, how did I get started? So when I had started working, I had pretty much known about FIRE, read a lot of anecdotes about how a lot of other people had gone through it. But when I had started working, my interest wasn't really in FIRE. So I didn't really structure my investments in a way that, I thought, okay, I need to save as much as possible, and that I need to make sure that I can stop working as soon as I can. But I took a very simple approach to saving and investing as well. So just started off with first saving after everything is done, with expenses, budgeting to make sure that I saved enough. And then started off with just understanding how mutual funds work, index funds were the first place that I went to. And that's sort of how I built it out. And I mean, till date, to be very honest, I still don't really, that's why this conversation is also really important. I still don't know if F.I.R.E is even the right thing for me. I don't know if it's going to work, which is sort of what leads me into this next question that I have. A lot of my friends also have this question. So Ankit, is FIRE, in your opinion, really possible for like an average Indian employee? So say like an Indian engineer or just normal salary. So would you say it's something people are better off trying to do? You're making say 50, 70 lakhs a year, or you work abroad and you're making money, foreign exchange is just better for you.
Akhila, if you're working outside for even a brief period of time, if you have a good job, good salary abroad, if you are conscious about saving, you can definitely save much more. But the thing is,
sorry, Ankit, I don't want to interrupt. Your voice is really breaking.
Okay.
It's better now.
Is it better now? Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, when it comes to working outside and then trying to achieve financial freedom, or just getting to financial independence, if you have a good job and if you are just good with managing your expenses, it's easier to achieve it outside India. But now in last 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5 years, the kind of salaries that we are seeing that Indians are making in India, particularly in tech related roles like engineers and software engineers, product managers, a number of marketers, it's like it's very much possible. It's just that you need to be very conscious. What happens generally is we inflate our lifestyle a lot, and we care too much, a lot actually, what others think. Because generally speaking, if I'm making say 70 lakhs, more or less my peers or people, peers as in my friends from college, and also the friends or the peer colleagues from office, they will be also making kind of similar money, and they are doing something. And we as humans, we do care about perception, what others think of us. And because of that, it's like, many times we end up spending money on things that we don't really want, we don't really need, and we do it just because, to show it off to others. Okay, so perception plays a very important role in saving. And I also actually, a short story that sort of guided me and taught me how important this perception is. So when I joined college, I'm from Ranchi, so relatively a tier 2 town. And when I joined Pilani, I couldn't speak English very fluently, and there were a number of people who were from bigger cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, who could speak English very fluently. I did not have a lot of money. Many of these people had much more money. And just a small incident, like once 3 of us were standing, and there was a 2 rupee paper coupon for our mess. It was just there on the ground. And one person asked the second person, hey, this is given, is kept here, is falling here, is it yours? He's like, no, it's not mine. You give it to Ankit, he'll take it. I found it very insulting, as if, So say the money is fallen and, take it, give it to Ankit, then Ankit will take it. And that is when like, okay, so somehow he of course doesn't know how much money I have in my bank account or not. But due to some reason, he got the perception that I don't have money. And it's just about perception. Whether I have money today or not in my account, no one knows. Okay, so managing perception, and you don't always need to, spend money, a lot of money to manage that perception. Just as an example, so sometime back, I, took my family for a luxury vacation to Dubai. We were staying at Ritz-Carlton, and the room for New Year's, and the rent of the room was approximately 55,000 rupees per night. First of all, I booked it via my corporate discount, so I was paying roughly 18,000, so huge discount. But again, no one else needs to know. I came from New York, and I, from the airport to the hotel, I had to go. And when I checked, the cab would have costed something like 80 dirhams or something like 3,000 rupees, roughly. And I also found that there is a metro that goes very close to the hotel. I was like, okay, I'll take the metro. I'll just get off 2 stations before the metro, before the hotel. And from there, I took the cab. So in total, I hardly spent 10 dirhams, maybe 10, 12 dirhams, something like that. And I was able to save a lot, but still managing the perception because I didn't want to drag my suitcase to such a luxury hotel. So saved money, and it was convenient. I mean, of course, I did it because it was also convenient. If it was like, I had to change 2-3 metros or then taxis or buses and stuff, I wouldn't have done that. But metro was right there at the airport and very close to the hotel I was dropped, and took a cab and went there. Because again, if I just dragged my bag to the hotel, everyone from the, the security guard to the reception guys and everyone would have known, okay, this person came like this. And there's a certain perception that is created. So over time, I've learned how to manage that perception so that it doesn't affect my savings a lot, because it does affect it as a lot. Have you faced something similar, Akhila? Any time when you spent money wherein you were particularly keen on doing it, but just for perception, okay, what will others think?
I think this hotel example rings very, very true to like some things I have also experienced, right? So when I have traveled, even in India itself, so in Ahmedabad, this is something that had happened. We were going to stay at the Marriott, but then we also thought that, okay, so Ahmedabad has like a great bus infrastructure. So they have dedicated bus lanes and everything. So bus is incredibly convenient to take, and forget about the saving money part. It's just the fact that it is probably more convenient to just wait for 5 minutes, get on a bus than, waiting for your Uber to get there and sort of go to the hotel. So this is something that, as you were saying the story, I was like, yeah, this is something exactly that I've experienced, because unlike you, I actually took the bus, went there dragging my suitcase. But in the beginning, people were confused. You could tell, like the security guard, the check-in staff, everybody was a bit confused. I'm pulling my own suitcase up the road and sort of coming. But completely agree that perception and is what really ties into lifestyle inflation. I think that's what the term is that people call it, right? Even though your salary probably increases over time, and in tech, especially past few years, people have had the ability to switch jobs, make like 50-60% jumps in salary. If your lifestyle is moving up at the same rate, then you're not going to be able to save.
So I just wanted to add something here, Akhila. So, this is actually something that I've learned from Ankit, how to manage perception, right? So unlike Ankit, I come from a comfortable family. I grew up in the Middle East. I studied abroad for my undergrad, which is something that, most people don't do. So for me, it's like I never worried or cared about perception. Like I would walk into a 5-star, in my flip-flops kind of a thing, and I wouldn't think about it. But, I think this is extremely important in life generally. It's like how you manage these things, because how you are treated, unfortunately, depends a lot on how you project yourself into the world. So, as much as we're talking about FIRE and about finance management, I think it's also important to understand these kind of perception-related things, And now, many times, even as founders, right, we have to present ourselves to the world in a specific way, which may not actually be the way that we are at home or otherwise. So I think just drawing that line or having that balance that in the chase or the pursuit of managing perception, you're not ending up like spending a lot of money. So the idea is, to do that also in a smart way. But I was really bad at it. Like I would just, like do very embarrassing things. And like Ankit taught me a lot of these things, like just how to to think what people are going to, see you as. And I think that is like really, really important, whether it's at work. Like, I mean, just a simple example, right? Like even if someone is coming into office, one person is really well dressed, one person is not. Even though I am not a judgmental person or anything, but this is so subconscious, right? That you do judge on some of them. So I think it's important to be mindful of these things, but not to be carried away with it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And so it's very interesting that that's something you sort of learned, right? That goes to show that sometimes even in our head, perception is not that important, but everyone else is thinking about it so much. But yeah, one other question sort of going back to FIRE itself, Ankit, want to know what your opinion is on just the route to how you can get to FIRE. So you said that there's, of course, if you are making a good salary here or abroad, you know how to control your expenses. That's one short way. But what about other people? Say you're not making a great tech salary in India, then what are some other options? Should side hustles be something we should look at? Is are much longer term, maybe more aggressive investment strategies the way to go? What are your thoughts on that?
As far as investment, so as far as the income is concerned, as you go along your career, even if you are not getting those 50-60% kind of jump, because anyways, even that is going to happen only occasionally in your career. It's not that every year, every other year, you'll be getting such hikes. So even if you're making okay money, what you need to do to look at, how is it that you can manage that money? How is it that you're saving from that? Because if you are, say, making 10 lakh rupees per year, and if you are not able to save from that, it's unlikely that when you start making 30-40 lakhs, you'll start saving a fair bit of it. You may think that you will do that, but that's not going to happen. So it's a habit, and you need to start doing that from very early on. So when I started working, so I got a internship while I was studying. And I was making around 5,000 rupees per month. And the apartment, the sort of stay was paid for by the government, so by the company. We were staying in company quarters. And there were other people who were also getting the same amount of money. Most of the people were asking for more. So we were in Mumbai, by the way, Kalyan, just outside Mumbai. And most of the other, my batchmates, they were asking their parents to send more money because 5,000 wasn't enough. And I was, even in that 5,000 rupees, I was saving more than 3,000, like something like that. Approximately 3,000 is what I was saving. So it's not how much money you are getting. It's important that you get in that habit. And when your salary increases, that is a very crucial time in your career, financially speaking. When your salary increases, it's important that a large portion of that increment is allocated towards savings. And Akhila, what you mentioned about, being more aggressive in terms of investments, when it comes to your investments, when it comes to your portfolio, it has to be aligned with your risk profile. If you are someone who is more of a conservative investor, and just because someone else is, going for a more aggressive set of investments, it may not go very well. Because that person may be comfortable that, okay, he or she invested 100 rupees and it is down to 70 rupees. And he's comfortable with it because he knows that, okay, this is how aggressive portfolio functions. It has come down to 70 and it will move up at some point of time. But the conservative person may get scared and sell it off. Okay, and which means that he has actually taken that loss. Before he has actually sold it, it is just a paper loss. Things will move up. But when you are not prepared mentally, you may actually take that actual loss. Okay, so aggressive investing is not for everyone. You need to know your risk profile. And the other point that you raised, it was regarding side hustle. If there is a way without any conflicts with your main job, if you are able to build various other streams of income, you should definitely try to do that. because it is just, giving you more cushion and just more comfort, right? You're not solely dependent on one source of income. Now, it can be through, freelancing work. If you if you're good at singing, probably, singing at a restaurant. And because I actually aware of someone from my office, Hyderabad office, and again, there was like two people, like a couple from the same office, and both of them were from, good families, well-off families, and making decent money in office. But still, they used to, they were both of them, liked jamming, and they used to go to a nice restaurant, and we also used to go to, and over there they used to, sing and making whatever money. It's not driving your other investments, expenses, etc. But it was a good additional income. So why not? So, and it is something that you should do. If possible, do something that you actually enjoy.
I think that's really, really fair advice, especially given how much influencers nowadays sort of talk about side hustles and say that, you should be doing gaming, a bunch of things, do this and that, will be able to make more than what you make at your day job. Of course, a lot of these are person specific, but your advice on just do what you enjoy if that's possible. I think that's great advice.
And Akhila, I think that it's also important that, again, you need to just be prepared about the perception part, managing the perception and the pressure. Just because someone else is doing it, don't feel pressure that I should start today because that person has started, that person started 3 months back. I only found out about it today. I should just take up anything. Right? It's important because increasingly, our main jobs are becoming more stressful. And there are a relatively smaller percentage of people who are really enjoying what they're doing. And if you take another, hustle, which is also a hustle, not really something that you're enjoying, that side hustle, it is just going to add to your mental pressure, and you may start performing bad in both the things, both your job as well as the other side hustle that you have picked up. So it's important that you do not feel the pressure and enjoy, whatever you're doing in side hustle.
But Ankit, I have a question, right? There are a lot of people that will say, okay, I want to work really hard, kill myself for like 10, 15 years, to make a lot of money, and then I, relax and skip out. And I think you are also one of those people, like, I know how hard you worked as an investment banker trying to make that money. So, but of course, I think in your case, you enjoyed that pressure. You enjoyed what you were doing, which I think is important. But a lot of people have that, right? Like, let me work really hard for 10, 15 years and uske baad I'm set.
No, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with it. First of all, to each his own. Whatever works for you, you should be doing it because you have chosen to do it, not because someone else has put that pressure on you. Because, okay, so in what you mentioned, Medha, I really enjoy finance. Very early on in my career, in my college itself, I started taking a few courses in finance, and I just was encapsulated by finance, and that is why I took up the job in finance, and now even my startup is in finance. I really enjoyed investment banking, and investment banking is one such thing. So whenever you're working, really hard and you're sort of getting yourself, those jobs or those roles become very challenging and very demanding. I mean, maybe because you are putting that pressure on you, and nothing bad with it, but as long as it's not external and you are enjoying it. Because I have seen people in investment banking who have actually broken down in office. And then, of course, they left the job, never came back to investment banking. So whatever you do, and there's nothing wrong in, working really hard early on and, thinking, okay, you can enjoy things much better later in life. But it's also important that, time to time you do enjoy, because if you just keep working hard, not spending any money there, and actually it's not about just for the money, it's about enjoying it. Maybe you just want to go for a walk in the garden, or just, you like running. It doesn't cost you anything, but you are taking the time, you're spending the time there, not necessarily the money, but you're spending time. So it's important that you do things for yourself. And money situation is something, as it may be relevant for you, but it's important that you don't let others put you in that pressure. And secondly, you do take small bits, so small breaks wherein you can enjoy in the way you like to enjoy.
So absolutely, I think this also rings true for a few other careers, right? So this is a very similar thought I had when I first started, also as a lawyer. Hopefully, maybe this 10 years I really work hard and then I never have to work again. But then the thought went out of the window very quickly because I realized that, as you mentioned, life is not just about doing like sprints of this. It's a balance. So you need to do what you like doing as well. And you need to be able to take that time out. So none of it seems sustainable. But yeah, each their own. If you can find ways to make it work for you, then that's one great way to even get to a FIRE goal quickly. But I'm just one more question around what you mentioned, right? You said saving habit is the most important thing. But thinking about the kind of people who want to FIRE, especially people in the 20s, how do you go about discretionary spend? So social life or travel, is it really possible to balance having a good life where you're doing all of these things that require money, but also working towards a FIRE goal?
No, absolutely, Akhila. I very strongly believe that a balance is very important. And when it comes to, whatever your interests are, I think everyone should have at least one or two interests. Otherwise, you may question at some point of time that is it a life even worth living? What's the purpose of, having and working so hard, earning so much money? I mean, you are a lawyer. Law is, again, another field which is very demanding, particularly for the ambitious ones. It can get very demanding, right? And if you're working so hard, putting in such long hours, you're making good money, but what's the point of it? So you need to see, okay, what are the ways, or what is it that you like to enjoy doing, and figure it out, if you can do it and how you can do it. When it comes to the money aspect, in terms of the spending side of thing, when you're doing this, you need to be smart about it. Like, for example, I think today or yesterday, a post went from my, I posted on LinkedIn regarding this Nati factor, Nati theory, wherein if you're spending, 300 rupees on a Starbucks coffee every day, it can really, amount to something big, over a crore, over like 30 odd years. Thing is, if you really enjoy your coffee, why don't you take it at home? Right? If you so actually, I had a friend, a colleague, when I started working in Hyderabad. She was from Delhi, very smart girl, and so we were living in Hyderabad, and this is 2009, and not a lot of fancy hotels were there. But there was no hotel very close to our place, and all of us, stayed very close to office. She, along with her friends, loved going there, but the drinks were really expensive there. So what she and her gang, sort of used to do was they would drink a good amount of alcohol, whatever they want to, 2 bottles, 3 bottles, or whatever it was. They would drink it before leaving, and once they reach hotel, they will just buy one drink each, and for the entire period, 4-5 hours or whatever they want to stay there, they're just holding on to that one drink. You get to, if you wanted to drink, you get to drink even at home itself. It would be much cheaper, and you wanted to enjoy the setting at the hotel. So they used to just go and mostly spend time by the poolside. So if you want to do that, you can do that. And again, instead of buying 4 drinks that you wanted to drink, you only paid for one. Essentially, I mean, the one that was after that thing that you had at home, it would be significantly cheaper. So it's about being smart about it. But you can do, you can do what you want to do. Again, it's if you just manage it, well. So, generally speaking, how is it? What kind of things that is it that you like to spend on, or do things that helps you, and how do you manage it financially?
Yeah, so I think this colleague story sort of done very close to what I also like doing. So food and mint is something I really enjoyed. But I've also realized, so I'm also quite interested in sort of being fit, go to the gym and all of that. So one really good thing is that one sort of balances the other. Earlier I used to eat out a lot, so we really enjoy discovering new places or trying new things. But once I started taking my fitness very seriously, it very nicely played into both managing how much I eat outside or drink outside, as well as my expenses went down significantly, because if I'm spending a lot more of my free time at the gym, even if I'm feeling like going out on one day to eat something, it's almost like somehow in guilt that says, "Look, but you just had a good workout. What's the point of now going and having say really heavy, rich food?" So that very funnily sort of just helped each other and my expenses ultimately. But yeah, no, I think one of the main things about FIRE is also about what the causes it should be about how much you need before you decide, okay, I'm now financially independent and get to do whatever I want to. What are your thoughts on this really popular 4% of my spending per year and sort of calculating backwards how to get to the FIRE causes? Or do you think this better way to go about it?
See, I think 4% is a good thumb rule. Like most thumb rules, it doesn't apply directly to everyone. So let's start with the corpus piece first. So generally speaking, if you have around 350 to 400 times your monthly expense and not monthly expense today, it's like, okay, so if I'm retiring tomorrow or if I'm thinking of retiring in 6 months time, howsoever that retirement looks like for you, whether suppose I live in Mumbai, I live in Bangalore. Suppose I want to continue living the way I want to, or I want to move back to my hometown or move to a relatively smaller city outskirts of Bangalore where the expenses will be lower. Think it from that perspective, ki what the expenses will be then, once you have moved, and 350 to 400 times of that. Okay, if you have that much amount of money, you should be able to, FIRE. Now, that money can't sit in your bank account. The 4% that we're talking about, it's the 4% is the additional income or additional return that you generate on your overall portfolio compared to the inflation. So generally speaking, RBI says the inflation rate that they like to keep in the country is between 4 to 6%. Okay, in current market, if you're a balanced, sort of a moderate kind of investor, you should be able to get around 10 to 11% return overall on your portfolio over the long period. Now, 4 to 6% is what they suggest, but actual inflation is more than that. So if you consider something like 6-7%, so 11% minus 7% is 4%. So with 4%, you'll be able to, you should be able to FIRE.
So that makes a lot of sense. And I'm just maybe if I now
just to add over there, it is very important that the corpus that you have built, it is not sitting idle in your bank account because it is not going to generate 4% additional return than compared to the inflation. So that amount has to be managed and invested very well for you to be able to FIRE. Otherwise, it can be a very huge amount. Okay, if that money is not invested properly. And this is an important point to know for everyone.
For sure. And Ankit, if I can ask, how do you broadly invest this money? Do you do mutual funds a little bit that way? How do you do it?
Okay, so first of all, I believe that my own money I'm talking about, and generally the philosophy that we also follow for our clients, is that it is important that you create a cushion first. Because God forbid, if something happens and if you fall, that cushion should be there to, protect you. And by cushion, I mean, first of all, an emergency fund and having some additional funds that can take care of you. So, like for example, as of now, we are, both Meha and I, we are building Wealth Hub, and whatever money we make, we reinvest. So we are not drawing a salary. So for me, the way I'm managing my money is for approximately 3 years, the expense that I am looking at, that amount is invested in relatively low risk investments, mostly debt investors via mutual fund. And apart from that, the money that I have, almost everything is invested in equities. I'm a very aggressive investor. So most of it is invested in equities. Small portion is there in gold, both through mutual fund as well as sovereign gold bond. Now, for sovereign gold bond, it's like the maturity period is very long. So you need to be aware, okay, only as much money that you can comfortably need for a longer period. And as I mentioned, almost everything else is in equities, direct equities. So because of my job also, I know how to analyze companies. And that is also something that I enjoy. And by the grace of God, I am making good returns on my equity portfolio. So that is how, I invest my own money. Apart from these three things, equity, debt, debt mutual funds, and gold mutual fund, and gold sovereign gold bond. I do invest in a few other alternative assets. I have invested some amount of money in leasing assets. So essentially buying an asset and leasing it out and getting monthly income on that. So that is something that I do. And real estate is also something that I have invested in, which is not doing very well, unfortunately. But looking at something else, fractional real estate of some form that I have invested in, but another product from fractional real estate that I'm exploring investing in. And once it looks good, I'll also be bringing that to our clients.
That sounds great. I think your portfolio also is quite broad in the sense that even though you were an aggressive investing, you still have portions in different parts, which is a good way to not put all your eggs in one basket. What
What if on this one, not putting all your eggs in one basket, it's very important. But it is also important that your portfolio is not over diversified. Because I have seen people, the maximum number of mutual funds I've seen in a portfolio for one of our clients when they came to us was 56, and that is insane. So while your portfolio should be diversified, it shouldn't be over diversified. Actually, Peter Lynch uses this term diversified, wherein verse is WORSE. So after a point of time, it can actually be detrimental to your overall portfolio. So that is also something to know.
Guys, so great conversation we're going on. I just also want to throw it to the audience. So we have people who are listening to us right from the beginning. If there's any questions that you have, or if you want to jump into the conversation, I know Nasif, Syed, Anvay, Harshit, Saptak, you're all part of our community as well. So if anyone wants to kind of come in and give their perspective, just raise your hand and we'll call you in. Or if you have a question, you can either put it on the WhatsApp group or you can raise your hand. So I just wanted to put it out then, because if people are feeling shy or something, this is your invitation to join the conversation. Go ahead, guys.
Actually, I want to ask Akhila. Akhila, how are you managing overall portfolio? How does it look? Where is it invested?
Okay, so I think mine is a little bit more conservative than what you mentioned. Mine is slowly the biggest chunk goes to equity mutual funds. So I started with an index fund and then sort of built around it with sectors that I felt bullish about. But nothing more than, I don't think I have more than 4 mutual funds that I put my team. That's where most of my income goes. And it's spread with small portions. Very small portion is gold, some amount of it. And this is after my emergency fund, which would be like about 6 months expenses. But that also I'm a bit okay with, because like how I live with my parents, I'm sort of young, and I think it's okay to not have as much of a buffer at that emergency fund level. But yeah, mutual funds are a little bit about debt. A little bit of the money goes to debt, mutual funds as well. A small portion in gold, a small portion in direct equities, because that's something I had a interest in a little earlier, so years or so. But then job caught up, life caught up. I couldn't really keep up with analyzing equities one by one, but that's something I'm getting back into now. Also, that's a small portion of my income as well. And yeah, that's how I manage it.
Okay, cool. Well, it's good that you have also, diversified pretty well. And what you mentioned, just the 4 mutual funds and roughly 3-4 equity. So again, not over diversified. So that's very good. Actually, you were asking something.
Yeah, so one thing that you mentioned, which was about fractional real estate, which one of the biggest questions I've had about FIRE since the time I started reading about this is a lot of people who do it, especially NRIs, to sort of come back to India, decide that they want to FIRE here. Is their first strategy is to buy a house, rent out couple of floors, live in one floors. Do you think doing that, do you think real estate investing in itself, forget fractional, like as in just buying a building itself, do you think that's a really good way to go about it, because now we know that real estate returns aren't that great from a renting yield point of view.
So, Akhila, as when it comes to real estate, unfortunately, for a long period, I think since 2012 till 2022-23, it has not been doing well. And 23, particularly when people started, moving back to the cities after COVID, it's like people started, seeing some sudden jump. But it took, so that has happened, but again, it will take, it has already jumped, and I don't think it will go up significantly. But when it comes to real estate, it is a hyper-local asset, which means saying I'm investing in Bangalore and it will give me good returns is unlikely unless you have been able to identify those pockets which is just upcoming. And if you're able to invest there, you will be able to make good returns. And for that, you actually need to understand that market very well. And if you're able to do that, you can actually make very good returns. But for most of us, most of us who are already, working somewhere, and we don't have a lot of background in real estate or understand these pockets, it just gets more difficult. On top of it, of course, managing that. Because if you bought an apartment, just maintaining it, finding a tenant, and if there are any hassles, taking care of that, it's just too much, work particularly for busy working professionals.
No, completely understood. That's very fair. And just to sort of digress on the FIRE point, but because we're talking about real estate, there are ways that owning a house to stay in and then not buying any other property is something that you agree with as a principle, because that's something that's also, people talk about that a lot.
Okay, sure. Actually, I'll just come back to that question, but Naseef is here. So, hi, Naseef, how are you? Naseef, you're on mute if you're saying something.
Hi, Akhila. Interesting conversation.
Treat. I'm very glad that you could join.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to touch upon one topic. If you and Akhila could talk about it, about how do someone measure their progress towards FIRE, because I think that progress is not going to be very consistent like an SIP sort of thing. So how do somebody measure at different points of time? Are they doing okay, or are they doing quite well, or they need to work up?
Very good question, Naseef. So, Naseef, I'll just come to this one after, I respond to Akhila's point on the real estate piece, if that's okay. So, Akhila, the real estate, the apartment piece that you're talking about for living in. Now, when we're talking about living in that apartment, first of all, be very honest with you. Are you considering it as an investment, or is it an emotional decision? By emotional, I mean I just want to live in my own house. If that is the reason behind why you want to buy that house, there is no number that can justify or not justify it. You want to do it, and of course, if you have made whatever amount of money you have made, it's also important that you're happy. And if living in your own house gives you happiness, there is no amount of money or no percentage of return that can compensate for that. But if we are just talking about a purely logical decision from the perspective of investments, buying a house early on in your career does not make a lot of sense. Because when you are early, suppose, Akhila, which part of the town are you in? Indiranagar. So suppose as of now you're working in Indiranagar, and you have say bought an apartment in Indiranagar. Of course, it's not going to come cheap, but you bought one there. You're very happy with it, and after you bought, 6 months later you got an amazing opportunity from say Mumbai, or even say west side of Bangalore, and the commute time one way is 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Now, either, if it is in Bangalore, you may choose to take that opportunity, still continue living in the apartment, your own apartment, and spend 3 hours or so daily commuting. And if it is, say, in Mumbai, either you have to leave your house, rent it out, or give up on that opportunity. right? And both, unfortunately, both will hurt you. Because that is a great opportunity giving you something, say 40, 50%, 70% hike. If you leave that opportunity, it is going to hurt you. I would have moved so much forward in my career. And if you leave the house and take that opportunity, you'll be like, I bought this apartment with so much of enthusiasm, so much of happiness and whatnot. And, I'm not even able to live in that. Okay. So from that perspective, I think buying a house early in your career is not a great decision unless it is a very emotional decision and it will bring you a lot of happiness and stuff. I think something like, around 40-ish or maybe post 40, when you have more or less figured out where you'll be, where you will be from the perspective of your career and stuff, that is probably a better time to buy a house and then, settle in there. If I answer that question, Akhila.
No, I completely understand and being straight enough, yeah.
And Naseeb, to your point, how you can measure the progress towards FIRE. First of all, allocate in just your mentally, or if you want to say, okay, these 3 funds are where I'm investing money in, or this is the account where I'm investing money in, and this is for FIRE. Look at what the number is. You can revisit it, say every 6 months, 1 year, how that number is going. Total current value of that divided by your current expenses, monthly expense. What is that number? So I mentioned around 350 to 400 times, right? If that number, that multiple, okay, say you started with, take a very small example. No? Let's say we are starting with a small number. Say when I started, it was, let's say, something like 10. Okay, and following year, my expenses increased, but I invested more money in that fund, and of course the investment that I made grew. So it has reached 18, from 10 to 18 in a year's time. So that's a good progress, and you can see this is a progress that you're making in the positive direction. Now, if you have a specific time frame in mind, Naseeb, say I want to retire in 10 years. From today, and I'm starting from zero in that fund. Generally speaking, the rate at which you will need to get there, you need to see, if the progress is being made properly or not. Okay. So first year, suppose I have to reach 400. So in first year, have I crossed 10? And then next year, maybe have you crossed 25? Then next year, have you crossed something like 45? Okay, so that is how you can, chart it out if you are making progress towards a specific goal that you've identified or not, or if it's more general, if you're looking at a number, if it is approaching towards FIRE or not. FIRE actually is like a retire early part may not be applicable if it is if you don't have a timeline to it, but if you're making progress, that is something that you can see by the multiple. Is it fair, Naseef, or do you have any follow-up question or any point to add?
No, great. I think yes, that helps.
Okay, thank you for asking this question. It's a very good question. Thank you. I'll move you to listening mode now.
There's a question from Anvay. So Anvay is asking, if someone wants to learn about financial literacy as a beginner, where can they start and what are the right resources they should consider?
Okay, so Anvay, first of all, I'm not sure if you are a part of our community or not, WhatsApp community.
Yeah, he is. He's a part of it.
Okay, great. So, you can be an active member there, consume the content that is going on. Feel free to ask any questions. You can read content from good sources. Don't just go on, don't watch random channels on YouTube or don't follow random influencers. You can go to good websites, like authentic websites, to read about these. Overall, in terms of money, I think Psychology of Money is a very good book by Morgan Housel. Okay, so that is something that you can read. It's not a very heavy read, but not a very easy one either. If you're just starting, I would recommend reading a book named The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a very light book, like a children's story book. Very nice book, but it's focused on finance. It's a classic, around 110 years old book. It's a very good book. Okay, and I think this should give you some, foundation. And in terms of becoming better, in terms of investing and stuff, I can't give you a general idea there. I can't give you a very specific idea. Generally speaking, should I subscribe to some newsletter or just follow news? Because I don't know, Anveki, what kind of investment also that, you'll be looking at. If is it more towards shares or mutual funds, or what is it that you would like to look at? But to start with, I think these two books should be very helpful for you, and some resources from, authentic websites.
All right, and I hope that answers your question. If not, you can ask a follow-up question and we'll take that. So we're almost at the end of the session now. So Akhila, if you want to wrap up, any last questions that you have for Ankit, and then we can kind of wrap things up.
I think I have just one last question, which is with respect to how to handle fire if you haven't seen your long-term partner yet. Now, should you wait, try to figure out how you want to build out your family, or is that something that it's okay, you can course correct as you go and you can figure out the change in money?
Yeah, Akhila, as far as change in money required is concerned, that will definitely happen. But what you should be looking at, okay, let's consider an easier, way to look at it. Because earlier what I mentioned was, when it comes to, FIRE, you should be looking at, okay, when I retire, what my expenses will be, and applying this multiple 400 times multiple to it. But the question is, okay, I don't know what that expense will look like. I don't know what that retirement will look like. Which city I'll be living in, what kind of house I'll be living in, what kind of expenses I'll have. No problem. When you're starting, let's look at the current expenses. Okay, maybe, after getting married, say you'll be spending 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh, or so 2 lakhs per month. Consider I'm spending 50,000 rupees per month. I'm single. I'm spending 50,000 rupees per month. Let's start with that. The retirement is anyways going to be a more longer term journey than the FIRE. Okay, so let's start investing towards FIRE based on current expenses. And of course, as I was mentioning earlier, for Nasi Fast, okay, your expenses are going to change every year, broadly. Just inflation is one factor which will definitely impact your expenses, but there will be life events that will be happening. So, say your partner is one, once you get married and you're living in a better house, because most of us are when we are living just on our own, single, we live on a more basic level, but once we get married, we do like to live a little better. So the expenses, 1 plus 1 will probably be 2.5 or 3. When the two people come together, the expenses together will be more than what you guys were doing individually. And then, somewhere along the line, baby will come, and then you may be considering getting a house and stuff. So it will make it complicated. But to start with, let's just focus on the number that you have today. Whatever expenses you have. So suppose if I'm spending 50,000 rupees and I'm talking about 400 times, I need to reach 2 crore. And 2 crore is a long journey if I'm starting from zero. So to start with that. And as far as the course correction is concerned, that is anyways needed. Whatever I have invested in today, it doesn't mean that that those investments and everything, I can just make that investment today and I can leave it for 20 years. It's not going to happen. I will be making changes because market will change, these funds, these investments will change, and a lot of things will evolve. So my portfolio needs to evolve with it. So the course correction is anyways needed, whether you have found your partner or not, or if any major life event has happened or not. That course correction will anyways happen. It's important that you start sooner. The sooner you start, the better it is for you.
Completely agree. That makes sense. No other questions from me. Thanks so much, Ankit, for patiently answering everything that I have.
No, thank you so much for your time, Akhila, and thanks everyone for joining in. And Akhila, thanks for sharing your